What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from ActiveMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And before the end of the year, I wanted to check one thing off my list that had been recommended to me a lot. So I finally watched The Last Stop in Yuma County. This film doesn't have audio description that anyone can find anywhere. It wasn't submitted to me for my consideration. That's during I still have to make top 10 lists and stuff like that, and probably based on the list of films that I hadn't seen thus far, this was the one that I'd heard the most about. Like, I'd heard a lot of people go, "Oh my God, have you seen The Last Stop in Yuma County?" And I'm like, "No, sir, I have not." It's actually made it this far without apparently dropping on any of the streaming services that I waited on. So I even rented The Last Stop. Actually, it was the same price I actually bought The Last Stop in Yuma County because it was literally on sale. Holiday sales, guys. This is the same price. Um, so I now own a film that doesn't have audio description, but like, why not? Like, when it's the same price, like, anyway. Um, so yeah, this is an interesting little thriller that has that old school. I've heard other people call it like noir. I don't know that it's noir. I didn't pick that up. Maybe that's from audio description. I think we overuse the word noir a lot. What it did remind me of is Blood Simple. It felt like the beginning of somebody's film career, and that's what's exciting about it. Is Blood Simple got a lot of people excited for the Coen brothers and moving them forward as a little group. And in some ways, you could also say Reservoir Dogs, but it just felt a little bit more like Blood Simple to me. A little less like Reservoir Dogs. It doesn't quite have the same punch in the script that Reservoir Dogs does, which is what Tarantino's known for, is for pushing this. Um, his films live and die by dialogue a lot. He has some of the most quotable lines in every single one of his films. So this feels more like sort of like a tight thriller, much like Blood Simple. So it's it features Jim Cummings, who I'm not the guy who voices Goofy, by the way. Uh, different guy. Uh, this is this is a director actor who works a lot in independent film also, and he starts here as a knife salesman. There's a knife salesman who ends up in a diner that is sort of at the border of Yuma County. That's why it's like the last stop. It's also there's a gas station, but they're out of gas. So everybody's hanging out in the diner, sort of waiting for the gas to show up. And it's one of those things like if you've ever driven across the desert, there are like literally these long stretches of of nothing where God help you if your car breaks down. Because the only thing that's ever going to go past you are more cars. Like there's nothing to walk to. there's no there are no rest stops or gas stations. It's just barren desert wasteland. So this feels like that. It's the last thing that you could possibly do before getting out of town and driving 100 miles of nothing. So, um, yeah, it also happens to be the place where two robbers who have just uh, stolen some money from a bank end up holding up and taking hostages. So you've got a knife salesman who's not from there. You've got the locals, the people who work at the diner, and you've got robbers. And uh, the thrills ensue. This one was a little bit hard to follow without audio description, I'm going to be honest. There's not a ton of dialogue, which is why I pulled back on the Tarantino, because, like I said, his films live and die by dialogue. Whereas the Coen brothers will often, even though they do write and have some really excellent scripts, they also have a lot of scenes where they can just hold on shots a lot more. They're very reliant upon uh, mood and theme in their films. So this feels like somebody is trying to capture that a little bit more than some of the other films. And I heard someone was trying to compare this to like the Maltese Falcon. I was like, you are stretching. You are stretching. That's why I'm like, we are overstretching the word noir here. and this, and this didn't feel like noir at all. Noir is a really hard thing to do, because it's very much this like period and style and capture, that it's like recreating an era. It's almost like trying to do camp, you know. It's like you can mess it up if you try too hard to do it, or you just miss the boat, or you don't really seem like you know what you're doing. Some people actually try to make things campy. It just comes across as being like, I don't know. Camp sort of has to find itself, and noir is just one of those things that we use too broadly to mean things that don't really mean noir. So, uh, yeah, this just feels like a tense crime thriller that unfolds and in interesting ways. So I would have loved to have audio description on this because I couldn't. I'm having a hard time sort of formulating a grade because when you have a thriller like this, it kind of matters like who's sitting where, who's looking at who, where, who's got the gun pointed at where. You know, I mean, like a lot of visual cues that you just take for granted when you're sighted and you look at things and you're like, well, everything kind of, yeah, all of those pieces were missing for me. So, if this is one of the independent hits of the year that's going to sort of perforate and send out into the world, then hopefully somebody will put some audio description on it at some point. It'll land on a streaming service and maybe somebody would put audio description on it. My fear is that it's going to end on Amazon and it's going to get TTS audio description. But you know what? At least there'd be something on this fucking movie because nobody else seems to be inclined to do anything about it. And apparently it doesn't have a distributor that cares. So I don't know. It's just, it's been out there for a while. And there's no known audio description for this movie. So my grade is unwatchable due to lack of audio description. If I were to try to give you a floating grade, that's tough because this, like I said, it's not a dialogue driven movie. It's moments. It's a lot of moments, and those moments don't always have dialogue. So it's hard for me to fully grade a director on this. And he's using sort of, he doesn't have any heavy hitter actors here either that are pulling. I didn't think there was like a standout performance was like, well, oh my God. I didn't feel any of that necessarily either. It feels sort of realistic in that too, is that nobody's overdoing anything. But there's also nothing really to pull me in and help guide me to sort of compensate for the lack of accessibility. There's nothing really here that even guides me in a direction. I would say I would lean positive because I was generally sort of impressed, but I don't know how strong that lean is. So I might agree with everybody and say this is a good movie, especially considering it's a directorial debut. I'm sort of impressed that somebody's been able to come out and make a stamp with this movie that seems to have debuted on video on demand. So that's it. That's my review for Last Stop in Yuma County. Maybe one day I'll see it with audio description. Until then, see you guys on the other side.